It is another episode of Amjambo Time. Thank you for all who help us to broadcast this unique program. I want to welcome our listeners in Maine and around the world. Here are our headline stories. Each February is Black History Month or African American History Month. At Amjambo Africa, we celebrate this every day by bringing to you the diverse content from Black American community. In this show, we will hear how some Black Americans born outside the USA learned some of what has happened to those born in America and discovered that history has been one of enduring pain. LD 1215, a bill to ban flavored tobacco in Maine. We have Representative Mana Abdi on the show.
This bill means understanding the danger of flavored tobacco.
And young people from the Community Organizing Alliance discussing this bill that seeks to protect youth. More on the registration. A consequential bill for the community of Ukara is up before the legislature. It is related to the establishment of a civil rights unit at the office of the Attorney General. We have Michael Kebede, the best mind, to tell us about the bill. In arts, the famous Pihcintu choir won the second Annual Anthem Award for being an outstanding and effective example of work by a global organization or program that raises awareness for a cause in the realms of education, art, and culture.
And whatever bad stuff might have existed in those kids' minds disappeared instantly when we finished the concert.
We have them on the show. Details after the break. Jaha Kuzimana, your host, welcome back. Each February is Black History Month. The community in Maine celebrates this month with lots of events. One we are spotlighting is the Black History Month Community Wellness Fair 2024. Organized by Cross Culture Community Services, the 2024 theme was Trauma, Grief, Hope, and Joy, exploring the social determinants of mental health care. A panel of members from the Black American community discussed these topics one by one, and foreign-born Black Americans learned how African Americans have been treated historically in the U.S., with real change over the years. Listen to Nuna Gresham, Executive Director of Wounded Healers.
I grew up in Africa and I grew up all my life in Africa. And when I came here, I put myself to a 1 year of learning the history of America and the history of Black people in this country and the issues of slavery and the history of what African Americans have gone through in this country. And it got, after that 1 year, I said I will never watch a movie, I will never read a book, and because I started getting very, very annoyed and very, very looking at people and wondering, how could you? Because these things were not taught to me when I was in Africa. And getting here, understanding that this history is not also taught in the schools here, it was clear for me how much Black Americans are living the pain until today. Because we watch TV, I watch TV and I see this should not be taught in this school, this is not, so, because it's not valued of what the contribution that they have done in this country. And it's a very painful truth to even hear and even to think about. So when we talk about joy and how we expect especially Black people to find joy here, I teach yoga, and the reason I started my own yoga studio is because I wanted to create a very non-judgmental space that Black people can come and be themselves, because I have attended several spaces that, they are mindfulness, they are healing places. But when I am there, I am very alert of where I am. And I am only 4 years in America. I started thinking, if the history that I have been reading is the history of these people who have lived in this country, how have they survived of always being alert? When you talk about mindfulness, being able to calm down and find joy even within yourself.
The panel also tried to understand how Black people have found resilience and joy despite the challenging environment they have lived in. Storytelling has always been a key therapy, according to Robin Talbot, Associate Director of Stone Coast Masters of Fine Arts program.
Historically, Black Americans have found joy in storytelling, in dance, in song. And when you asked the question, I thought of the Black church. And the, when we're starting to think of space and expression, when you go to the Black church, you're getting up. You're getting up, you're clapping your hands, you're stomping your feet, you're expressing yourself physically in that space. So that brings joy, right? I mean, even through the Civil Rights Movement, right? There was Black joy, and they seeked out the church for that space, for that community. And I do think that as we move forward and we evolve, people are finding spaces, not the Black, well, probably the Black church too, but they're diversifying the spaces that they can access and feel comfortable and safe in expressing themselves to feel that joy after something very painful has happened, and they find that maybe that energy and of seeing Maya or listening to a poem, like I said before, it's one of those things where you say, okay, as cliche as it sounds, it's like I'm with my people, and. Lastly, I would say that, and I brought it up before, this idea of storytelling. When we are sitting around the table and we are telling stories, that does bring joy. I often tell, the story of my uncle telling us the story when we were kids, and to this day, and trust me, I'm over 50 years old, I still laugh about the story that he tells, and now there's another generation who tells the same story, and we still laugh. And it's not a pleasant, it's a pleasant story, but it's about a Black man getting booted off a bus. Most people would be like, why is this funny again? But the way in which he expressed himself and the way in which the story comes out, yes, we of course know that during that time it was probably painful. There's a Black man coming from down south up to Maine, gets booted off the bus, right? But within the story, we know the story, but the way in which he expresses it brings joy. And that is part of the Black joy resistance.
LD 1215, a bill sponsored by Senator Jill Dusen that would ban flavored tobacco in Maine, will be up for a vote on the House floor. The bill is intended to combat addiction among youth who are most likely to be attracted by the tobacco that comes flavored with mint, candy, fruit, and more flavors. Representative Mana Abdi is hopeful that the bill will prevail once it reaches the House floor. She has been working hard to explain the bill to her constituents.
We were discussing LD 1215, which is banning flavored tobacco in the state of Maine. And I'm having conversation with young folks who are impacted by flavored tobacco, and the importance of understanding what this bill means, understanding the danger of flavored tobacco, and why it's necessary and important to ban it statewide. The bill has already passed in Senate, so it's going to be coming to House at some point, and once people decide to vote either for it or against it, we will determine if it passes. So roughly right now we need a couple more legislatures to get on board to get their vote. A couple of votes, but hopefully once it comes to House, most people will want to vote for it to ban flavored tobacco. So I don't know when the bill is going to come to the House floor, but when it does, hopefully it will pass.
Community Organizing Alliance is working hard to explain this bill to youth and to discuss how passage can affect their lives. In Lewiston, our reporter Magdalene Mai spoke with Scott from Community Organizing Alliance, on why they want youth to understand the bill.
The reason we're part of this campaign is because we know that these flavored tobacco products are designed specifically to appeal to children. The tobacco industry wants new customers, and young folks and teenagers here in Lewiston are their prime targets with flavored tobacco products, candy-flavored, fruit-flavored tobacco products that are especially attractive to kids. So we're supporting LD 1215, which is a bill before the Maine House of Representatives, which would prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco products in Lewiston and around the state. Because we want to protect Maine kids and make sure that the next generation grows up healthy. We expect that this bill will be voted on in the House of Representatives in the coming weeks, and we are still a few votes shy of what we need to pass this bill and make sure that we can get these tobacco products off our streets. My ask to everybody would be to contact your representative in the Maine House of Representatives, learn where they are on this issue, and ask them to please support it. And we're excited to have a conversation soon with Representative Adam Lee in Auburn, who still is not on board with this effort, and we hope to convince him with the support that we demonstrated here today, that the people of Lewiston and Auburn support public health and want to protect our kids.
Amjambo Time has some tips to help you navigate life in Maine. Here we have an immigration update. The federal government will open a new immigration court in Massachusetts this April. Immigrants with Maine addresses who are currently docketed in the Boston Immigration Court will likely have their cases moved to Rowell Chelmsford Court. Some people have already received notices from the Boston Immigration Court resetting hearing dates. In many cases, these new hearing dates are earlier than the respondents' original hearing dates. Anyone in Maine with a case in the immigration court system should report all changes of address to the appropriate immigration court and ICE or PLA office, and regularly check the online immigration system to see what information they have about your future hearing. Look to the Maine Navigator section each month inside the Amjambo Africa newspaper, full of tips about cultural adaptation, education, finance, health, jobs, money, and more. This guide appears in 7 languages. Pull the section out and keep it. You never know when the information inside will come in handy. A consequential bill for all members of communities of color is up before the legislature and is related to the establishment of a civil rights unit at the office of the Attorney General in Maine. The bill would require the Attorney General's office to publicly share information about what kinds of alleged civil rights violation people report, which ones the Attorney General's office pursues, and why the Attorney General's office does not pursue others. Michael Kebede, a policy counsel from the American Civil Liberties Union, is here with us.
Nothing in this bill forces the Attorney General to engage in litigation, to follow every single complaint, take it to court, because that would be an unreasonable restriction. The way to hold the Attorney General accountable is to educate everyone about what decisions the Attorney General is making. You've heard the saying, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Yeah. I'm not saying the AG is infected. I am saying the fact that the AG's decisions about which violations of the Maine Civil Rights Act the AG will pursue or not pursue, the fact that that's publicized and reported every year will itself create some pressure on the Attorney General to resolve the complaints that it receives.
The conversation we are having, it is going on within the Black History Month, and then also when we have a huge campaign against DIJs in many states. Do you see this as a way of helping out with these challenges? The DIJ, they are protested in many ways. As I understand, the whole apparatus is about inclusion as well, civil rights inclusion.
Yeah, so one of the other duties of the Civil Rights Unit is to educate people about what to do when their rights are violated. And, one of the reasons violations happen is people don't know their rights. And so the Civil Rights Unit has an educational mandate, and that will make sure that more people know when their rights are being violated and what they can do about it. And then another crucial dimension of this bill is that entities that are part of investigating or remedying civil rights violations are required to cooperate with the Civil Rights Unit. So these entities are law enforcement agencies, municipal governments, state departments, state agencies, or other divisions of state government. Whenever they're either involved in or somehow implicated in the violation of civil rights, and the Office of the Attorney General Civil Rights Unit wants their cooperation, this bill, if it became law, would require them to cooperate. It would be illegal under the law that this bill would establish for them not to cooperate in that investigation.
The police, for example, when they are involved in something, they've got some protectionism, some rights to.
Yes, yes. Qualified immunity, other forms of legal protection they have, yes.
Yeah. So what is the position of ACLU on the bill, the whole process?
We support the bill completely now, since the part that we had reservations about has been removed.
So, do you see a chance for the bill to get through the process?
It is the Speaker's bill. She's one of the most, if not the most, powerful legislators in the legislature. And if enough Democrats support this, then I do think that it has a chance.
We are seeing a lot of the increase of the hate. Well, not the increase, it has been there, but it's becoming sharp nowadays. When you see all these things and you see the rate of reporting, do you feel like there is a huge gap, or?
Crimes in general, but including hate crimes, are underreported. But I don't have statistics about how much violence or hate is reported. But there's no question that there is harassment and hate in Maine. The South Portland municipal employee, as you just mentioned, basically resigned because he received too much hatred and vitriol.
What about the community of immigrants, when you go by their literacy level versus legal opportunities, avenues? What is your advice to the community? I think there is a kind of ready to go, it is how it is, those statements, I don't care, it's okay, you can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if someone keeps violating someone's rights, then that's an open hole. He can do that forever.
Well, Maine's immigrant community actually highly organized. There's a South Sudanese association. There's a Congolese association. Health-focused associations of immigrants. There's the Maine Immigrant Rights Coalition. And the Maine Immigrant Rights Coalition represents more than 60 organizations. Part of the task that this bill gives the Attorney General is to engage in public education and outreach on civil rights issues related to hate and bias. There are ways to do that involve all of the organized immigrant communities and even disorganized, recently arrived immigrant communities and associations does help with that educational task. As you know, the United States does not have an official language. And so the Attorney General, if it wants to do this job well, could engage translators for the purpose of educating people about their rights in their native language.
In the arts, the famous Pihcintu choir won the second Annual Anthem Award for being an outstanding and effective example of work by a global organization or program that raises awareness for a cause related to education, arts, and culture. The founder and director, Con Fulham, granted us an interview. Welcome, Con, on the show.
I formed the chorus almost 19 years ago. And I was having lunch with a friend of mine who had just become the executive director of Catholic Charities, which, as you know, does a lot of work for refugees and immigrants. And we were discussing the challenges that new arrivals face. Well, the first thing you face is you lose your voice, right? You come in speaking a whole series of languages into an English-speaking city. And so I thought that I would form a chorus to give the girls their voices back. And we've been doing it for the last 19 years. I've had well over 400 girls go through the chorus from probably 40 different countries. 100% have graduated from high school and 85% have gone on to college.
19 years in this and all those hundreds of children. When you reflect on the journey, what comes in your mind?
Just how amazingly resilient and dedicated and powerful these young women are, considering the circumstances they come from and what they've overcome and how successful they become is just a wonderful and amazing thing to experience year after year.
Take us to the beginning, how you managed to reach out to the community, how easier it was, but also how you managed to grab their attention and trust to come together and form a choir like this, which is now famous and known all over Maine and around the globe.
I remember the very first audition I had was on a very cold, windswept, rainy November day at Reiki Elementary School. And I think we had maybe 6 or 7 kids show up. And I went, uh-oh, this is not going to be easy. And one of the kids was going to the Catholic school in Portland. And a couple of the nuns found out about it. And the next thing I know, I had 20 kids from that school, and the support of the nuns, and that's really how it began. And from that, word of mouth started to reach out into the different communities, and at some point, I think we had 42 kids, and within a couple of months.
And how do you choose the songs? How. I'm curious how you started, like, let's sing this, let's do this, let's try this. How did you form the first composition and, for them to sing?
Sure. Well, a couple of different ways. One is that, I'm a professional singer-songwriter. That's where my profession began and still is in many ways. And so I write a number of the songs, and I write them with the kids in mind. What kind of themes and we talk about this stuff. And I've actually co-written a couple of the songs with girls in the chorus and continue to do that. As well, they absolutely have a say in what songs they want to sing. So it's sort of a combination of the stuff that I write for them, with them, and that they choose.
Wow. So now it has been 19 years. Can you walk us through the achievements that you can tell to our audience?
Quite a few. I think we've probably played for over 400,000 people live, and hundreds of millions via Voice of America, National Public Radio, the Today Show, Al Jazeera. We performed at incredibly prestigious venues like the Kennedy Center, the National Cathedral. We do a lot of work with the United Nations, different branches of the United Nations. According to a Yale graduate student, she believes that we are the only musical act that has ever performed for a working session of the General Assembly of the UN. So, and we just recently have won 2 internationally prestigious awards called the Anthem Awards. And to give you an idea, it's part of the Webby Award. So movies are Oscars, television are Emmys, and Webbies are for the web. And so we've received 2 of those recently from the International Association of Arts and Sciences. pretty special. I think there were over 2,000 applications from 40 countries, and we were one of the selected, which is pretty special.
When you see the children, the girls, how does these achievements impact their emotional, their development, their success in normal life? How do you relate or correlate the two?
I think in the moment, these are teenagers, right? Most of them, and preteens. And so they don't necessarily at the moment grasp the kind of monumental success that they've had. But a few years after, when they enter the workplace or they enter college or they start talking to other people about the chorus and what it's done, then it begins to hit them about, how amazing the experience was and how much they contributed to it.
I'm quite sure those who have graduated, they have a story to tell. Do you have any follow-up with them?
Yeah, amazing number of kids have gone into professions, lawyers. I have a couple of doctors. I have a number of social workers. These are kids who want to pay it forward from what they went through. Psychologists. I just found out yesterday one of my girls is teaching kids with disabilities. At least 3 or 4 are now teachers themselves. So they're all going into professions that are really powerful and important in the communities that they choose to live in. I mean, they're really contributing in a big way, and I think it's so important for people to understand that. Obviously, there are a lot of nonsense stuff going on or being talked about immigrants and new arrivals on the southern border and so on. The truth of the matter is that the immigrants and the refugees and the new arrivals, particularly in this state, old white people, desperately need. And the contributions they're making to the state are really significant, not in terms of culture, but in terms of finance.
I saw on the website you have a tour across Maine, and I'm wondering how you see this changing the narrative in terms of immigrants' views across Maine. Do you feel like you have that mission when you do some tours?
Yes, that's exactly what these tours are all about. I'll give an example. We played a high school in Bethel, Maine, a completely white community. And when the girls, got off those vans and got into there are probably more kids of color at that one event than had happened in Bethel in a year. And you could see when they walked in that there was a lot of curiosity, a little trepidation, a lot of things that they're just, because these kids had never seen that before. And by the time the concert was done, they were playing basketball together. They were sharing pizza. They were swapping social media. And the teachers were just thrilled that these kids from Bethel had that opportunity to really interact and see that they're all just kids. They're all just teenagers. And you don't know what kinds of ideas they had in their heads that you can get from social media these days, or you can get a lot of bad stuff pretty easily. And whatever bad stuff might have existed in those kids' minds disappeared instantly when we finished the concert. And that happens all the time. Everywhere we go, we get that. We just performed last 2 Saturdays ago in Hiram, Maine, tiny little white community. The organization putting it on thought they might have 30 or 40. 160 showed up and got a standing ovation at the end.
Jaha Kuzimana, your host. We are at the end of today's show. Remember, the website amjamboafrica.com has a variety of great news, and you can pick up Amjambo Africa newspaper at stands like Hannaford, Burundi Cafe, the markets on Lisbon Street in Lewiston, Coffee by Design, and many more places. Together with the entire team of Amjambo Africa, we thank you. Bye.